So this is a quick video showing off the latest features of Pandafold. So the first one, just not that big of a deal, it's exciting to me, is the use of native file dialog boxes. This was requested by a user because they wanted to be able to quickly find things on their computer, and they have a bunch of folders bookmarked. This was an easy change. Before this, it was using the Godot file dialog boxes. The next change is when you import a model, it's automatically zoomed. I should say there's a lot of changes here. I'm going to go through quite a few of them. So this is a 3D scan of myself from about 5 years ago, and I'm using this because what I would like to do next is make sure the software works well to pattern bodies. And to do that, I'm gonna go make a body. This is just a quick mock-up of a plantigrade body for me. So what I've done is I've taken this laser scan and I've extruded it 3/4 of an inch. So where I want the body to be. And this is so that there's ease or there's additional space around so I can move. So that's why this model looks like it does. Um, so the goal of this next effort of doing this, of making a body for myself, is to continue to improve this workflow for this. But I'm going to demonstrate some of the initial work here. And the first bit of initial work is the create seam on a plane tool. And that allows us to do things like create cuffs very easily. So I just put a plane wherever I want this cuff to be. And this allows me to very quickly just create a seam here. So now I've created that seam. If I want one on the other side, I can just say mirror over, create a seam over here, do the same on the legs. And this was really just me being frustrated with my initial efforts to pattern this. I got all excited. I'm like, I'm going to make a body last weekend. And then I realized I really, really, really wanted this tool. So that is how this happened. And now let's add one around the waistline here. It's not particularly flattering to look at a 3D scan of myself, but it's what I have to work with, and it's what I want to use to make a body of myself. So, all right, so now I'm going to align this on the z-axis, so this way I can just put a seam all the way around the model. Same thing on the neck here. So what I'd like to try to do is make a digigrade body for myself, do all of the sculpting in here, and just go straight from 3D scan to a body without doing the DTD at all. And this is really to just show the reason I'm making this, or I'm doing this, is A, I want this for myself, and B, so that there's a path for other people to follow to do this. So now I've got to do around the armpit. Let's see if I can get that aligned nicely there. It needs to come back a little bit here. And perfect. Okay, so now we're going to add the missing seams along the top of the shoulder here. So Pandafold does have a problem with drawing seams in these and crevices like this. I wish I understood why, but sometimes it just can't draw the seam. I need to do some more debugging there, but I'll get there. Like there, where when it refuses to draw a seam, it's trying to tell me that it couldn't trace along the surface of the mesh for some reason. And that usually has to do with it having a good enough view. So another important thing that I've talked about in previous videos, so you'll notice the yellow dot here where the cursor is, it changes colors based on what I'm mousing over. So it's important to snap on things when you're using the software, and it's showing you what the snap status is. So yellow means all it's able to do is snap to the surface. Purple means it can snap to a seam, and then cyan means it's snapping to a vertices. So in the case of something up here, I probably want this seam aligned here for my own sanity. Imagine this was off like, 5 millimeters. You're going to be assembling this pattern and think to yourself, man, I must have really assembled this wrong. Um, so let's see if I can get, yeah. All right, so now we're just going to mirror here. I need a snap line to mirror. So one of the user requests that I've gotten is to add, and that failed to mirror, which is not surprising because of the problem with the crevice in the crotch here. I really need to spend some time figuring out what's going on there. Okay, so one of the users requested better symmetry tools. I'm just going to make the software work like Nomad Sculpt does when it comes to symmetry. You'll have some ability up here to determine what your symmetry options are, and then all the tools will just work with symmetry. I just haven't gotten there yet. It's going to require a fairly large amount of work to do that, probably a couple of weeks at least. And same thing here is it couldn't figure out. So these red lines here indicate that it wasn't able to figure out on the mesh how to do that. And I want to save this because I want to spend some time trying to figure out why that is. But the algorithm there is exceedingly complex. So when it makes it look pretty easy to draw a line on the surface of a 3D mesh, it turns out that is not necessarily a trivial thing to do, as I now can tell you over having spent weeks and weeks fighting with that algorithm. All right, so I'm missing seams anywhere. I think I need to mirror the shoulder. This is the select tool. It allows me to just click on something like this seam here, find it in my list, and then I'm able to mirror that. I've got to do underneath the arm here. One of the other features that I've spent a lot of time working on, but still have a lot to go, is adjusting the selection boundaries for things when you're zoomed in and out. So how close do you have to be zoomed in before it'll let you select a seam or something like that, or select a seam, and it automatically scales up and down the dots and the lines. It seems so trivial, but many hours have been spent on this, and I'm still not thrilled with it. Let's save that. The next big change here is the pattern cutting tool will now highlight red for tight and blue for loose. So if I were going to sew this, I'd want to, in the red area, add darts, in the blue area, add gussets, or split the patterns in two. So now that we have this, we can see what this body would look like if you were to sew it together. And because there's ease in here, these tight and loose areas may not matter that much. But if you were to pattern this, you probably would want to go through and make some very explicit decisions about how you wanted the shapes to lay out. So for example, if I wanted to accentuate the chest, I might go ahead and put more darts in here to make sure that it's curved nicely. I might try to take out the additional fabric around the stomach here. And in the case of the shoulder up here, for movement purposes, I probably would have to, or I would probably want to add some darts there. Same thing with the shoulder here. If I wanted to accentuate the butt, I would probably go and do a whole separate piece in here. So I might pattern this entirely differently versus me just demoing it. So let's look at this layout real quick. So these are the patterns that were produced. And one thing that was really exciting to see is when I did this, is that these look like what these patterns should look like, which was kind of nice to not be surprised about this. Versus discovering the hard way that like, oh, wait a second, the patterns are, it doesn't look like what I want. But having made a bunch of fursuit bodies before, this is what I expected this to look like. And this is another area where me spending a week or two working with the body, I'll end up taking all sorts of notes and continuing to improve things. But the zoom on something large, I really need to make this rotation box work for both small and large patterns. And right now I'm not there. Okay, so one thing that's really interesting about this is, first off, it looks like what you would expect a body pattern to look like. So there's no surprises there. And right now, this layout view is configured for letter size paper. So if I really hated myself, I would go ahead and print out all of these letter size sheets of paper and cut them together and like tape them together. I would really hate myself. Another option, and this is an improvement that's been done. This was there for a while but hasn't worked all that great. Is I went through and rewrote the layout engine. So now you can change this, and this is A4 size paper. So you could go online and you could get this printed out cheaply. There's a couple of companies that will do specifically sewing pattern printouts on large sheets of paper. So this, you could just export this to PDF up here, send them this, and they would print it out all on A4 paper. But then you're still going to deal with the misery of having to tape all of this together. Alternatively, you could just say, I want to go to dynamic sized SVG because I have a laser cutter. And now this is just going to lay this out for laser cutting. So you could align this to match the size of your laser cutting table. And the dynamic one will show the size down here. Like, how big of a table would I need to cut this? And then when you export here, it will ask you to just save as SVG. So now, but this is, none of these are how I would probably do this myself. I'm expecting to work with the projector option. So what this does is this opens a separate window and you expand this full screen, and this window has been improved this release as well. So if I zoom out enough, I will see all of my patterns here, and I can just drag them over here. So you can buy a cheap projector from Amazon for about $40, and this allows you to go straight to just projecting the patterns directly on fabric. And the way this works is you set up the size of your cutting mat, so like 36 by 24 is what I have. And you turn the projector on, you hook it up, you expand this window to be full screen, and then you drag these dots to align with the corners of your cutting mat. So there's definitely, I don't know if I would say this is a bug, but it's just this algorithm for doing this type of manipulation of two-dimensional space seems to have a problem where it will project green. It's like the lines intersect the lens effectively. So let's say, for instance, my projector isn't lined up perfectly with my, my table or whatever. This view lets you calibrate that to get a perfect alignment. When I took the software to Denver, this is how I demoed the projector. Is I just had it set up on the table projecting like this, and it worked great. So while this might look skewed here, like this doesn't look square, as long as I dragged these corners to the size of my cutting mat, then it would be correct in real life for projection. And then I can just drag the patterns over here and prepare to cut them. And there's a calibrate and a project mode, and you put it into project mode. And now you have these patterns that you could just project right onto fabric and draw them out. So that you could skip over the whole process of taping patterns together. You could just get straight to patterns that you've marked directly on fabric and cut out. So this saves a whole lot of waste. We didn't waste duct tape to make a DTD. We didn't waste paper to print out and cut patterns. All we did was went straight from that body to patterns that we were projecting. So I'm super excited about this. I'm going to be doing this the first time myself as the author of this software in the next 2 weeks or so. But I'm super excited, and I hope you guys follow along as I continue on this adventure. Thanks.